SABC, host broadcaster of the G20 South Africa 2025.
Now, the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Ronald Lamola, will appear today, today brief the media on South Africa's state of readiness to host the historic G20 Leaders Summit. Thousands of international delegates, media representatives, G20 heads of state and invited heads of state are expected to gather in Johannesburg for the two-day Leaders Summit that's scheduled to take place on Saturday and Sunday at the Johannesburg Expo Centre in Nasrec. And to give us a sense of the significance of the G20 Leaders Summit and this morning's G20 breakfast panel discussions, let's cross to Sakina, who is going to have a chat with the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Ronald Lamola. Sakina, let me hand it over to you.
Well, thanks, Leanne, and welcome back to the Royal Majestic Hotel. And, you know, this one of those stories that we were talking about in the lead up to the G20 Leaders Summit. We spoke last week about how tourism might be impacted positively. So, and this story of this hotel, one of them, because I just learned this morning that this is, if you will, a soft launch for the reopening of what used to be known as the Hyatt. You'll remember here in Rosebank, it is now Royal Majestic, and that's a story for another day. Also, just a quick reminder, SABC, of course, broadcasting all of the G20 features live. We are the official broadcaster. We also have the pop-up channel for G20 on the SABC Plus app. So from there, you can actually follow what's happening right now inside at the Minister's Breakfast in the panel discussion. We are now on the second panel discussion for this morning. So if you want to follow those proceedings, please follow on SABC Plus, and we have a pop-up channel on that particular facility. But the man of the moment this morning, I'm joined by Minister Ronald Lamola, the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation. Minister, thanks so much for speaking to us. And we heard you this morning saying, first of all, this is Africa's G20. Just explain to us in a nutshell what that means and the significance that this G20 is supposed to bring to Africa.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sakina, and to the viewers at home. Indeed, it is a great moment for us as a country. It feels like the 2010 World Cup, but it's also great for the continent itself. It's for the first time that the G20 is hosted on the African soil, but we're also deliberate in terms of shining the spotlight on the challenges that the African continent is facing, the issues relating to disaster management, financing for development, that needs to be addressed for the African continent, but also the issues of the critical minerals revolution that is happening across the globe, and Africa holding 30% of such, that the African continent should, in this revolution, be one of the beneficiaries, not just as a consumer of finished products, but beneficiation at source of such minerals to revolutionize the entire continent, and also to work on industrialization using the untapped skills of young people, which this continent is also blessed with. So indeed, that is what we mean to say this is an opportunity for the African continent to shine a spotlight on the issues that are important for its development, using also the bridge between the global north and the global south, so that the global north can invest more on issues related to industrialization at source, beneficiation, local manufacturing, and also the issues I've already raised, the issues of disaster, because the African continent contributes the least to the current climate situation, to climate change, but it is the most affected, and it receives less amount, less than 5%. So that's what makes it, this is a very important moment for the continent.
And whether it is climate change or the issue of beneficiation, it all speaks to the will, politically, business, and otherwise, to actually implement these decisions that have been taken. Do we have that situation? Are the conditions optimal to actually implement?
We believe so. And that's why there is a negotiation as we speak on the declaration, the Leaders' Declaration, that will be adopted in the Leaders' Summit. But also there's been various working groups. There has been declarations on those working groups on various subtopics that we've been dealing with, artificial intelligence. The disaster one, they at least adopted the declaration that speaks to this, which makes the condition optimum for implementation. even in those where they could not adopt a declaration where it ended up becoming a chair summary, that chair summary remains persuasive to be implemented by member states of the G20, but also for it to be calibrated in some multilateral forums like the United Nations and other platforms that are very key in global development.
Talking about some of the discussions that we've heard already this morning, cost of debt to African countries, again, inordinately burdened our African countries when it comes to servicing their debt costs. So have there been any meaningful, developments in that regard? Because the cost of debt is rising for Africa all the time.
Yes, and that's why our President Ramaphosa appointed the commission that is chaired by former Minister of Finance, Mr. Trevor Manuel, with a number of economists able in this issue to come up with very clear recommendations as to what should be done, which is a report that will be presented to the President and also to the leaders, so that the recommendations can be taken to deal with the issue of cost of capital. But there's also been a massive campaign that has been led by former President of Nigeria, former President Obasanjo, who has also sent some recommendations out of that, where he has got a committee of elders who have looked into this issue of debt and what they believe should be their recommendations, but also the Financing for Development Conference in Seville in Spain of the UN also made certain recommendations with regards to this matter, including the Compact of the Future, the Pact of the Future, through the United Nations Secretary General. So there is a number of initiatives that are aimed to respond to this. You will also know that also the Roman Catholic Church, through what they call the Jubilee Report, they also made specific and pointed recommendations. So all those will be consolidated and be taken through the processes of the G20 and be taken to other forums for processing and to be taken forward.
And just in terms of our preparedness going into the Leaders Summit this weekend, are you able to give us an update on who will be attending and who not?
Yes, we are prepared, and South Africans have been very supportive, both civil society, the private sector, ordinary citizens have been seeing this as an important platform. Meetings, working group meetings have been all over the country. Each and every province, there has been some G20 activities. Indeed, there are heads of states that will be coming. Almost a majority of them are coming. Those that are not coming have indicated, have mandated either their foreign minister or deputy president or someone they consider senior to represent their countries, except the United States, as you are aware. They have said that they won't come. They are boycotting the event. But for those who are not coming, like the leaders who have mandated someone, it's normal and natural in these multilateral platforms. There will be events where they come. There will be those that they don't come for various reasons.
And looking forward to catching up with you later on in the week. Minister of DIRCO, Ronald Lamola, speaking to us there, and also just giving us a bit of an update on who will be in attendance, who not, and it all looks pretty much as has been expected so far. And this, of course, is what we will be discussing going into the weekend in terms of the G20 and, of course, all the other activities that have been taking place. And one of the more important ones, of course, business, because as I was speaking to the minister and talking to the fact of the will to implement, as the minister speaks of beneficiation, business, of course, is going to be an important part to this. And I'm joined now by Stavros Nikolaou. Stavros, good morning. And the B20 has been exceptionally important, because in terms of giving expression to some of the agreements that have been arrived at, business is going to be a key player. But let me first get your sentiments on how the discussions have gone.
Sakana, firstly, good morning to you and all the viewers. Let's just for one moment recognize what we are achieving as a country. I think it's a wonderful, once in a 20-year opportunity to host a multilateral event of this importance and magnitude in our own country. And by all accounts, the last 11 and a half months that we have been pursuing that have been exceedingly successful. So we should both commend ourselves and also realize and seize the moment. Now, as you correctly say, there have been a number of important conversations. I think everyone is acquainted with the theme of solidarity, equity, and sustainability. It's a theme that speaks very much to our continent. This is the first time that this event is being hosted on African soil, and we have attempted to maximize this. Now, in business terms, what does this mean? There are a number of key pillars. The minister raised some of these earlier. There are 4 key pillars that are being discussed this morning at the G20 kickoff. And some of these that are important for business, obviously they're all important for business, but some of these that are particularly important are debt sustainability. There's been conversations around that. The cost of capital, the cost of borrowing on the African continent, the servicing of debt is prohibitive to economic growth, to developing the continent. So that is a key issue that has been discussed. There have been some consensus in the financial working stream around some of these matters. Some remain unresolved. But at the end of the day, what do you want? You want debt sustainability for the continent. You want African businesses, African governments to borrow at much lower costs so you can further stimulate economic growth. Now, another key thematic is the beneficiation of critical minerals, but it doesn't only start and end at critical minerals. Our continent has been very much seized historically with mining commodities, minerals, and exporting those to other jurisdictions, and we then import value-added manufactured goods from elsewhere at multiples of the price to what we exported. So we need to change that picture. So industrializing the continent and the important conversations we have had here, both in the G20 and in the B20, are critical to industrializing our continent. We have better self-sufficiency, security of supply, manage our own value chains, and stimulate economic growth. Those are key elements for the continent.
And they are a game changer for the African continent if implemented as envisaged, Mr. Nicolau. The question, though, is, one, how amenable is business to that? And two, in terms of the other G20 partners, some of them may be losing out if Africa were to industrialize and beneficiate large scale. How have those conversations been received?
Look, you make a critical point. Let me take my sector, which is the pharmaceutical sector. Now, other continents have been beneficiaries of 1.4 billion people on this continent because we are largely and almost exclusively consumers of healthcare products on our continent. Now, other jurisdictions, geographies are not about to lose a 1.4 billion market. So the approach that we have taken, both within the B20 and the G20, is we need to identify partnerships. You know, the minister spoke about strengthening multilateral trading system, strengthening multipolarity, not diluting it. So the approach we have taken has been very much about identifying synergies and complementarities, so that you look at where are your particular strengths as a continent, where are the strengths of other continents, and how do you synergize together so that both continents multilaterally feature and multilaterally benefited. This is the time for Africa we can continue exporting our raw materials, but now we need to produce our own products for our own people in our own continent.
And that time has come. Mr. Stavros Nicolau of Aspen Pharmacare there from the B20 side of things, and quite a number of discussions already been had in that regard. And we'll unpack those as we lead up to the Leaders Summit this Saturday and Sunday. And don't forget, SABC Plus, we have the G20 pop-up channel, and of course broadcasting to you live in all official languages, all 12 that is, including sign language. With that, it's back to studio.
SABC, host broadcaster of the G20 South Africa 2025.